Good morning, June 4th, 2021, Friday update. A couple things I want to touch on, specifically the mayor's office release about police negotiations and kind of blaming me and the FOP for not getting a contract done. It seems they believe by dangling money in front of officers, they're going to create some dissension within the lodge and force us to, give what they want, and it's not going to happen. I'm pleased to see, at least from what I've kind of read, the social media responses to that post have been uh, basically the city's playing games, and they get it. I'm sure there's a couple who are screaming they want their money, but for those officers specifically, let me tell you this. The city's offering 10%, the same thing they gave the firemen. There was no creative solution or offer. They simply just gave us exactly what they offered the firemen. I, for one, think we have a tougher job than firemen. And I'm going to give you a couple examples why. This isn't a knock on firemen. They have a job I wouldn't want, but they also have a job that many people want. The city is giving a police test that they're allowing candidates to take the test from home, basically in their pajamas in their bed. The fire department is lucky if they have a venue big enough for the test they got coming up later this year. Nobody is leaving the fire department to come be police officers, but I can assure you, I know firsthand, we have many officers either have left already or are anxiously waiting on a list to go to CFD. That's just the reality of it. Some other things. Fire department members are not subjected to testimony in court, what they did, why they did it, subjected to jail if they're accused of lying or anything like that. So our job is unique, it's tougher, it's got more dangers, and it has more penalties attached to it. That being said, I think we should be compensated at a higher level than the firemen. I've said it from day one, and I will stick to that no matter what, which was why we didn't think 10.5% was enough. We wanted 11.5%. It's a simple 1.5% difference. We weren't asking for some pie in the sky dream here. So 11.5% would be for the 4 years retro through the 30th of this month. And then the 3 years going forward, it would take it to 20.5% for 7 years. That was our request to the city and our offer. The city has pretty much agreed to the 7-year term. The percentages still have to be worked out. I guess they see where we land on that, but at least we know we should have some contract harmony going forward once this is ratified. But the other part of that press release highlights negotiations with the sergeants and how amicable those negotiations were. Well, it's not necessarily true. The sergeants got the financial package out of the way, separate. I mean, that's what we were looking for from the beginning. That has not been the reality that we're looking at. But it is simple to say, or anybody to understand, that the sergeants have a Me Too clause, just like the firemen. They can take their 10.5% because they know if we get more, they're going to end up getting more. We could do the dirty work and the hard work for the little bit of more that they're going to get the next retro check. But we don't have that convenience, unfortunately. So we're playing cards with the game with the cards we have. That being said, there's some other deception within that release, talking about anonymous complaints, House Bill 3653, and the realities in that bill. While that 800-page bill was so poorly written that the trailer bill 3443 contained over 500 pages of correction language. So, there was a lot of things unwound. We'll be putting out a release on what our summarization of the trailer bill actually changed it to for every officer going forward. That'll be out probably tomorrow. Back to the mayor's release. So the anonymous complaints is still in that 3653 bill, along with confidential complaints. One of the things they highlight on is the revealing of the person's name. Well, we never really challenged that because the confidential complaint component within decertification allows for just that. By the time you get to the decertification board for an interview, the person who made the original complaint would be revealed to you if you didn't know it at that point. So that was the language we already agreed through the FOP in 3653. The anonymous complaint component is entirely different. It's a different definition within the same bill, and yet another example of how terrible that was written, and it still needs to be worked out. But there's a couple other provisions within this release that are outright lies. Duty to intervene. The duty to intervene is or report wrongdoing is in the bill already also. we're obligated to do it going forward. So there's no reason to really negotiate that. It's state statute. The destruction of discipline files. The sergeants, didn't get that. The files do not have to be destroyed. Well, but the reality is the Illinois Supreme Court last year made that very ruling anyway, and it was not entertained on appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. So Public Records Act take precedent over our contract, according to the Illinois Supreme Court. Those files will no longer be destroyed after 5 years like it calls for. All we've been doing from the beginning here, talking about Article 6 and 8 of the contract, was what those files would be used for, what they can and cannot be used for. If they're going to have to keep them, they're going to have to keep them, but they shouldn't be considered for promotions or anything else, or compounding discipline if they're a complaint from 12 years ago. Great, they're open to public records, but they should not be considered for discipline issues. That's just another simple component we were looking at. I will say we're still kind of on the fence about this vaccination survey thing. I personally don't think they're entitled to that. The lawyers looked at it, and one was it's fine, and the other one was it's kind of iffy. So I would suggest nobody fills out the survey if you do not feel comfortable with it, unless you're given a direct order by a supervisor to fill out that order. And I would document it on paper that you were given that order, because if we have a remedy down the road, I'm not trying to put supervisors in the middle here, but that's just the reality we face. There's no reason the city should be accessing or forcing anybody to voluntarily give medical data or information background like that. With that being said, stay tuned for the release of what the Trailer Bill 3443 really means for us going forward, and keep the faith. We're making progress here. I will tell you that I'm encouraged that the mayor named John O'Malley the deputy mayor of public safety. He was on the police board. He was the voice of reason actually on the police board for the most part, with law enforcement background. I think he's in part the reason they now are having this public perception of they love the police, they support the police, the mayor and the superintendent. Excuse me. I will say I found it rather laughable at the 9th District outdoor roll call that she attended, that she literally had the nerve to talk about not allowing people to vilify the police. There has been no bigger offender. If you really want to show that you really don't vilify the police, Miss Mayor, take the retro off the table, get the financial package done. We are not that far apart on the primary, subject matter. So the ball's in your court. Quit pointing the finger at us and me. It's actually you who have not been involved on any level with these negotiations, and not even once. Everything we talk about at that table still has to go across your desk. I challenge you to show up to the next bargaining session and make this happen, and we could deal with the rest of it going forward. With that, have a safe weekend. Ciao.